In this video, we're going to talk about activity 4.1. 4.1 is really just kind of practicing and getting at how to solve equations. And we're going to try to solve these equations not necessarily by doing all the steps to solve an equation, but just by thinking about what's happening in the equation, what would need to happen to make it true. So in this first one, we have a 6, and we have another term that are adding to be 0. If this is 6, this term right here would have to equal a negative 6, because 6 and negative 6 would equal 0. So what would A have to be to make this negative 6? And the answer would be negative 3, because 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. 6 and negative 6 cancels out to be 0. So for this first one, A would have to be negative 3. For the second one, we need to think about what it means to multiply by something by 0. The only way to multiply something by a number and have it equal 0 is if one of those numbers is 0. Anything times 0 equals 0. So if it's 7 times B equals 0, B must be 0. Here we have the same sort of idea, but now instead of 7 times B equals 0, now we have 7 times C minus 5 equals 0. That means that C minus 5 has to equal 0. So that way it's 7 times 0 equals 0. So what does C have to be so that this factor equals 0? And the answer is 5. Because 5 minus 5 is 0. And then 0 times 7 would give you 0. For this one, there's two numbers, and again, we have to think about multiplying by 0 and what that means. If we have two numbers multiplying each other and the product is 0, we know that at least one of those two numbers has to be 0. So we're going to say G equals 0 or H equals 0, or really they could both be 0. We don't know, but at least one of them has to be 0.